sharing the poster of our today's webinar for your reference. And I hope you are all doing well. I warmly welcome you to today's webinar. And we are thrilled to have participants joining us from various institutions and locations. And we truly appreciate your time and presence. This webinar has been organized to share the insights on the current topic, which is emotional intelligence, to encourage the academic discussion. And we are honored to have with us Mr. Shibaji Chakraborty and Mr. Devobroto Samadar sir, who will be sharing their valuable insights with us today. We thank them for accepting our invitation and gracing this session with their expertise. Welcome you, sir. And I would like to take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the esteemed leadership of AIMS for their continued support and guidance. Our sincere thanks goes to Professor Dr. Ramakanta Patra, President of AIMS and Dean of Business Administration Department, Supreme Knowledge Foundation Group of Institutions, for his visionary leadership and unwavering encouragement that continue to inspire us all. We are equally grateful to Dr. Durga Prasad sir, Executive Director of AIMS, for his consistent support and strategic direction that help to shape the academic and professional excellence we strive for. And a special note of thanks to the honorable board members of the AIMS for their valuable presence and backing. We are deeply honored by the support of our chairman, sir, Mr. Vijay Guho Mallik, whose wisdom and leadership continue to guide our journey. We also express our sincere thanks to Dr. Shomu Guho Mallik, Vice Chairman, and Mrs. Deveshi Guho Mallik, Vice President, for their encouragement and active involvement in all our initiatives. Your collective vision and support have been instrumental in making today's event a success. We are truly grateful. Before we begin, a few points, I like to inform all the participants that please keep your microphones muted during the session to avoid background noise. And you are welcome to turn your cameras on, but it's not mandatory. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. We will address them during the question and answer session at the very end of the session. Please avoid spamming the chat to ensure everyone's questions are visible. A feedback form will be shared at the end. Kindly fill it out to receive your participation certificate. So without further delay, I would like to introduce our today's speakers. First of all, our first speaker, Mr. Shibaji Chakraborty. And we are honored to welcome Mr. Shibaji Chakraborty, a highly accomplished industry leader with over 2 decades of experience in the FMCG, pharmaceuticals, and nutraceuticals sectors. An MBA graduate from the University of Kalyani, Mr. Chakraborty began his professional journey in 2003 and has since built a distinguished career with global organizations, including Nestlé, the world's leading food and beverage company. He is currently serving as the Regional Business Manager East at DRLN HSC, a joint venture between Nestlé and Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, where he heads the business unit for the Eastern region. Mr. Chakraborty's career is marked by consistent excellence and impactful leadership. He has been recognized as Best Area Manager for 4 consecutive years, contributed to the successful launch of Nestlé's baby food business in Bhutan, and mentored numerous professionals into managerial roles. He has also represented his organization in esteemed global leadership workshops such as Rivian, Germany, Sparks, Switzerland, and Asset, Sri Lanka. A passionate mentor and a dynamic strategist, Mr. Shivaji Chakraborty is committed to inspiring and empowering the next generation of the professionals. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Shivaji Chakraborty, sir. We are also delighted to welcome our another speaker and resource person, Mr. Devobroto Samadar sir, a highly respected industry veteran with over 30 years of leadership experience in the manufacturing and steel sectors, including a distinguished career with Tata Steel Group. A graduate of Jadavpur University and an IIM Calcutta alumnus, Mr. Shomadar has held key roles in operations, strategy, and business excellence. He retired as Senior General Manager of Tata Steel Downstream Products Limited and now serves as the Chief Operating Officer of Wisdom Overseas. He is also a passionate mentor and guest lecturer at institutions like Heritage Business School and Symbiosis and brings a wealth of knowledge to today's session. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Devobroto Shomardas, sir. So I welcome both of you. So without any delay, we are about to start the session. So over to you, sir, Mr. Shibaji Chakraborty, sir, and then Devobroto Shomardas, sir, will take over the session. Thank you.
Thanks for the great introduction. So am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you, sir. So there is no point in wasting in introducing me once again. So my presentation will be something on a very interesting topic. Because since our academics from our school academics journey to the entire academics journey, we always go through how we can improve our intelligence, how through studies, through our experience and everything. So what exactly is that? It's all about how you can gain knowledge and how you can apply those knowledge. But one thing remains neglected. Remains neglected across our academic journey, but that which is very, very important in any corporate is called the emotional intelligence. Just a sec, let me share my screen. Is my screen visible, I suppose?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is visible, Mr.
Okay.
Chakraborty.
Thanks a lot. Just a sec. Okay, so my session will be basically on emotional intelligence. It's a very important aspect which every corporate, every industry is looking for from whom they're going to hire. So before getting into the details of that presentation, I just want to share a slide which can give everyone a food for thought. See, this is a typical organizational pyramid, a hierarchy, how an organization operates. There are a lot of people in the bottom of the pyramid. You can see from the screen. There are a few people above that bottom level, a handful of people above that, and only one or two, are very few people at the top. So there must be something which is differentiating the people at the bottom of the pyramid with the people who are standing at the top of the pyramid. There is something which is differentiate between them. So what exactly is that? So this is the part which I'm going to harp in today's presentation, and this is a slide which I'm sure my friends, my would-be leaders who will be into any leading role in an organization within a year or a couple of years would love to see these slides, because these are some great organizations, some great place to work, some big global organizations, some Indian MNCs, so where we all had a dream to work. However, these organizations are looking for something while hiring people. So these two things which I'll be sharing in today's presentation. As I was introduced, that I am into Nestlé for close to 2 decades, and currently I am into a role where I need to take interviews also. So over there, there are certain things which I'm looking from a fresher when I'm interviewing into a candidate. The most important thing is, the basic skill set. So for example, if I'm taking somebody in the role of a sales, I'm looking for someone who is a good communicator, who has a flair for selling, who has eager to learn new things. So these are the basic skill sets which I'm looking from a candidate whom I'm going to hire for some role in sales. So same applies for other domain also. There are some basic skills, prerequisites for that role. Next most important role, what I'm looking from a fresher, like most of you all, is the learning agility. Learning agility is a very important aspect which you are looking for a candidate. Is basically how fast you can learn things. At the same time, you can unlearn things. I'm sure you are learning a lot of things in your management classes. You are learning production management, you are learning strategic management, you are learning a bit of law, you are learning a lot many things. But when you will be getting into an organization, there are certain prerequisites for those job role. For that, you need to initially unlearn a little bit of things so that your brain will get the capacity to learn the newer things. An organization will make you adapt to those changes, and those who make changes, the faster they can make the changes, that kind of candidates are more sought after in any corporates. Next is enthusiastic people. People who are really eager, really energetic, are the people with a can-do attitude, who jump into any problems, who are eager to learn new things, who are very proactive. We love this sort of candidates. So whenever you will be into any interview or in the initial few days of your job, try to exhibit this sort of behaviors. This will give you an extra edge over other candidates when you will be getting into any corporates. Next is a very important aspect that is called a leadership quality, which is a very, it's just a two-word phrase, but there are a lot of depth into it. So it's something which is initially very difficult to judge from a candidate, but slowly and steadily it comes out of a candidate. So it's someone who is having, if you ask me to describe it, is very, very difficult to describe. But if you ask me, then it's something like who is having a very strong clarity in your communication, who know how to how to work with others, one who can walk the talk. So there are a lot of, it's an amalgamation of a lot of qualities. It's basically the leadership qualities. And next is understanding the domain. Say for example, you are giving an interview for an FMCG company, then we love candidates who is having a fairly good idea about the domain, about the industry, about the market size, about the market share, about who is the market leader, and whether the category is growing or not growing. So all these people with having a fair knowledge about that category, about that industry, are definitely getting an edge. So these are basically the very basic skill sets which we are looking from a fresher while I'm hiring. But last but not the least, the most important thing is emotional intelligence. This is the most important skill which I'm looking for a candidate during the hiring process. Now, let's come directly to the topic. What exactly is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is not a very complex thing. It's something which we are doing day in and day out. Say, for example, there are two sets of emotions we handle. Very simple. You have your own emotions, you have the emotion of the people surrounding you. Let's simplify things. Say for example, you have your own likings, own dislikings, own happiness, own unhappiness. Those are your own emotions, and you, day in and day out, you have to interact with people. You have to interact with your parents, you have to interact with your friends. They have their own set of emotions, and the way you understand your own emotion and the way you understand the emotions of the people around you, how smartly, that is called an emotional intelligence. And that is a criteria which is very, very much required these days into any corporate. Okay, so there are basically two aspects into it. One is a personal competence. What exactly is personal competence into emotional intelligence is basically self-awareness. How much you know yourself. Because there is in any organizational leadership framework, you will find this is a very strong competencies which is looked after. How good the person know himself, his own strengths and his own weaknesses, and can act accordingly. This is known as self-awareness. And next is self-management, knowing yourself fully, how you are going to manage yourself. I can just cite a small example. I don't know whether you all are aware of this. Most of the big organizations are very frequently having many celebrations. Even if they achieve some small targets for a month, targets for a quarter, they achieve some numbers for a specific brands, they go for celebrations. So during these celebrations, we managers at time very closely observe people. So what exactly we observe? We observe people who are getting too high while enjoying themselves. So this kind of behavior gives us a perspective. If the guy is not been able to control himself, how he or she is going to control a team. So that is called somehow a self-management. So this kind of behavior is a very, very important part of emotional intelligence. Next come social competence, how you're managing your surroundings. Social awareness, that means, say for example, today someone is posted in Bihar. He needs to understand some unwritten norms of that political state. if you're posted somewhere in Northeast, you need to understand the social awareness of that region. Though I'm talking totally from the geographical perspective, but there are a lot of things. Say for example, a lot of things you need to keep in mind when you are managing generations, because in today's workforce, so many generations coexist, right from the boomers to Gen Z's, the millennials, all are exist, and every generations have their own likings, own sense of accomplishments. You need to keep all these things in mind. Just to keep simplify, say for example, you become a manager, you become a line manager in another one year or 2 years down the line. You have to manage a very senior person who is around 10-12 years senior than you. At the same time, you are managing a very young guy. So your way of handling these two people will be totally different, because these two people gets motivated differently. These two people get the urgency of doing job in a different manner. So that is called social awareness. You need to understand people, you need to understand the environment, and you need to work accordingly. And next is relationship management, where most of us who freshly come out of college and getting into a job struggles. What exactly is relationship management? Normally, when you get into an organization, if you are into some sort of job where you need to handle external clients or customers, then you need to handle two set of people. One is the internal one is the external one. The internal one means your boss, your colleague, your peers. These people are your internal one. The external ones means the means the clients. This is the kind of industry you'll be getting in. What exactly is relationship management? Say for example, when a fresher getting into a sales job start visiting clients, he initially face challenges in developing relationship. Over the days, over the months, basis his quality, basis his capacity, basis his way of connecting with the clients, he developed an excellent relationship, start developing an excellent relationship with that client. The relationship start peaking, going up, up, up. What happens when the relationship is peaking? The client is expecting something, you are fulfilling that. You are expecting something, the client is fulfilling that. In that way, the relationship is going up. After a certain stage, once it reaches the peak, there is no point going anywhere, only to go down. Then the relationship starts going down. The client start expecting something which is not very ethical, which you cannot fulfill. Then the relationship starts going down. That is called relationship management, where you are going to draw the line, how you can keep the relationship a professional one. That is called relationship management, which is also very important in corporate these days, and that you need to manage through your emotional intelligence. So basically, in a nutshell, what exactly is emotional intelligence is basically a balancing act between your brain and your heart. Okay. So now, what are the emotional competencies? There are basically 5 parameters which determines whether a person is strong in his or her EQ or not so very strong. The first and foremost one is self-control. We'll find most of the people, we normally, when something which is happening, which you're not expecting or liking, we normally start reacting in a very, very wrong way. There can be angry outburst. We get into a shell. We behave in a very uncanny way. That is called you lack self-control. You know, people with a very high EQ remains very calm and composed under pressure. Even if the sales manager with the strongest EQ will find, even if they're degrowing month on month, they stay calm and work on their failures. Even if they grow exponentially, they do not get overwhelmed on that. They also start to try to learn from there, and so that they can continue their success story. That is called self-control. Next is one very important behavior is called consciousness, which is you will find many of the leaders, many even within us also, whenever something is not happening in our way, or some sort of failure is happening, we start getting into the blame game, which is very natural, in corporates as well. We start acting defensively, we put the entire fault into others, and that's how we handle things. But a good leaders who is emotionally very competent always take accountability for the failure, take responsibility, and that helped him or her to move forward. I'm sure all of you are big fans of football. Even in football, you'll find the best coaches are those coaches who, during the bad day of their team, they face the press conference, and on a good day when their team wins, they send the players. So always give credit to the players and take the blame by themselves. So that is a sign of highly emotionally competent people. Next is trustworthiness. You will find once you get into even in your college days also, you also find in your school days also, and that is going to be more frequent. More number of people will find this sort of people in your offices. People are overly competitive because being people want to reach a certain level by hook or crook, which is a very which is not a very which sign of a very emotional competent people. Through that you can be successful in 1 month, in 1 year or 2 year, but for becoming a consistent performer or become a great leader, you first need to be a good human being first, and for that you need to have very high integrity and concern for others. Your sole objective is not only achieving the numbers or achieving the goal by hook or crook. So that should how trustworthiness is a very important parameter for being an emotional competent person. Next is social skill. I'm sure all of you are aware of the term empathy. There are two terms called, one is empathy, one is sympathy. Sympathy is basically when we are feeling bad for someone, when we feel for someone that yeah, he's not in a good situation, he's not in a good position. That's called sympathy. Empathy is exactly when you are putting in yourself into his or her position and try to get it and understand that. It's called empathy. So a person with a good emotional competency, a good leader, is always very empathetic. Whenever a team member is not performing well, a good manager never start blaming him or her, never try to victimize him or her. He or she first try to understand the underlying reason why he or she is not performing. If the root cause is identified, in 95% cases the issue gets resolved. So that is a part of social skill. You need to be empathetic and you need to be considerate at most of the times. And lastly, perhaps one of the biggest competencies which is required is building bonds. Whenever even you will find in your college also, and this is going to be very common in the corporates also, most of the people interact with you in times of need only. Whenever they require a notes, whenever they require something which is meaningful for them, they only interact it during those times. This doesn't create a bond. Even in corporate also, in most of the times people get in touch with the distributor salesperson when during the month end, when the sales is required. In rest of the months they hardly get in touch with those persons. This doesn't create bond. So you need to interact with people more often. You need to understand the people with a sensitive mind. So that is what is creating bonds, and that is a very important competencies for people with high EQ. Okay. So now what exactly we all are aware of the term IQ, and we all are aware of the term EQ. So what basically is the difference between these two? So regular intelligence, what I just stated at the initial part of my session, is that how we learn newer concept and apply the knowledge to solve these problems. It's a very simple thing. The wisdom, the learnings which we gain, and how we are going to apply that is called the intelligence. Whereas emotional intelligence is basically how you are going to manage your own emotions and the emotions of the people around you. Obviously, this developed through experience, through a very strong will of understanding people, through by developing your interpersonal skills, because this cannot develop overnight. You need to be a keen observer of people body language, what people liking or likes, what people doesn't like. So you need to have a very keen observer of those things. Then you can be a very strong, emotionally very strong. And at the same time, one small thing I just want to say, not every experienced leaders you will find be a very emotionally intelligent people, because they're in most of the cases experienced people understand experience by the number of years or the number. But it's not like that. It's the learnings which you had from your failures and success in those following years is called experience. Now coming, there are certain misconceptions around us about emotional intelligence. We always feel that you will find when you all will be getting into your job, you'll have a notion within yourself that let's be very popular among people. Let's always say yes. Let's always think positive about everything. Let's be very good to everyone, which is a syndrome which everybody normally suffers during our initial days of in corporates or initial days of your leadership. You always try to be a very popular leader, which is a strict no from emotional intelligence point of view. Because if you be always nice to everyone and say yes to everything, you won't be able to take harsh decision, you won't be able to ask difficult questions and challenge people. So which is also a strict no, and this you won't find in emotional intelligent people. Next is you will find in office, in any office if you go, you will find there are two sets of people, three sets of people rather. The two sets of people, one set of people are never in their seat. They always runs from this cubicle to that cubicle. They are always networking with others. They were chatting with everyone, which is not okay. At the same time, you will find there are people who are always sitting in their cubicle, sitting like within their shell, never interacting with anyone, and always working in a silo, which is also not okay. You need to have a balance in between these. You only interact, network with the people meaningfully whenever it's required. Rest of the time, you do your job in a productive and an effective manner. That is emotional intelligence. Never allow your emotions to run freely or become completely robotic. Bring a balance in between these two. And emotional intelligence is more about balance. Never ever be skewed towards one direction. Another wrong conception which is there within us, that women are better in emotional intelligence. It's not like that. It is not gender specific things. Males are equally good in emotional intelligence. Yeah, we had a notion that women are more soft in their approach. They're so in that way they're more emotional intelligence. It's not like that. Everyone can be emotional intelligence, because emotional intelligence is a huge topic, huge subject. And moreover, it's not at all connected with intellectual or cognitive abilities. People who were very good in their academics, people who were very good in their studies with brilliant results, may not be an emotional intelligent person. Even the people with a very strong academic background at times feel that everyone will be like me, everyone will think in that line of everyone will have a same line of thinking, but it's not like that. They need to improvise at times, because with my experience I had seen several examples where the finest of the officers uh, were a failure as a in their leadership role, because they start believing that everyone will work in their own way. So that is also emotional intelligence. Next is, it's fixed or genetic. Not at all. It's getting developed by practice, it is developed by patience, it is developed by observation. So these are the things. So never try to give very popular and yes man to others, and always bring a balance in your behavior and your characteristics, and it is no way related to intelligence. Yeah, intelligence will take you to help you to improvise yourself, but it's not no way totally dependent upon the intelligence. So now there are certain traits for people with a very high EQ. It's basically they are very strong in adaptability. Even if you are putting someone in the role of finance today, they will do well. You put them into compliance, they will do well. You put them into some role, some administrative role, they will do fantastically well. They are the people who are very effective. They are the people who can adapt, who can embrace changes and love changes. So this is a very important characteristics of people with high emotional intelligence. Next is they're very good in managing conflicts, and they are very they can adjust very nicely with newer situations, because conflict management is a skill. Most of us normally try to hide things beneath the carpet, or we try to go away from the conflict, or we confront them in a very wrong manner. But people with high EQ will handle conflict in a very sensible way. They deep dive into the conflict and try to resolve it, and that's how they can adjust to new situations, and through those conflicts they learn newer things and manage to newer situations. uh, they give importance to relationship, and they have empathy, which I stated a couple of slides back. Yeah, very important things. Once I when in my initial days of into corporate career, one of my boss told me that you have got two ears and one mouth. What does it signifies? That you will always listen double than you speak. Listening indeed helps you to understand things better, analyze things better. So always be those who listen very well are bound to be a very very good communicators. Communicators is not about the kind of vocabulary you select, your good English or good Bengali or good Hindi. It's about the clarity of thoughts within you, and that developed through listening, and that's what you express through your communication. So that is a communication. Next is one of the biggest challenges which most of us faces was during the COVID period. See, the conventional way of working things, because we who are in sales, the most important thing is reaching to customers or to clients, reaching to outlets, reaching to retailers, reaching to distributors. So that had gone for a toss during the COVID period. So then we start embracing technology, and we faced humongous challenge in the initial days. There were a set of people who start telling they were shying off from from using all these technologies. But at the same time, there were a set of people who remain very open to those changes and embraces them, and they were the people who became successful during the post pandemic. So you never know, with the advent of AI, what all things will be might getting a bit disruptive. So I'm sure all of you are going through this sort of sessions a lot of this sort of sessions where people are saying that all these routine jobs won't be there. Yes, the jobs which are going to be there are the jobs which require decision making, and for that emotional intelligence is a must. So people with high EQ are going to have a very very bright futures in coming days. So I'm going to give you certain tips how you are going to improve your emotional intelligence at workplace, because within a year or a couple of years you are going to join your jobs, and the first I would say 60 days, or rather the first 90 days, are going to be a deciding factor of your career. So which can either make or break you, but I don't want to be that serious into that. Yeah, there is every second option in life, so that is altogether a different topic, but I am going to share with you certain tips how you are going to improve your emotional intelligence at workplace. The most important thing is always express yourself. Express yourself in a nice elegant way. At the same time, there should be a lot of clarity in your communication. People don't like I don't like people with a very very clouded mind and communicating things with half inside and half outside. People love those people who communicate things with clarity. So always try to communicate in a clear way. At the same time, keep in mind that you should respect others also while communicating. So that is the most important things which the people with high EQ are having at workplace. At the same time, there will be a lot of stressful conditions. You might face conflicts, you might face some tough deadlines, but in those cases stay calm, because if you become angry, if you are showing violent outburst, it won't take you to anywhere. It will do harm for you. Be calm and always respond. There are two very important words which I'm going to share with you in the next slides. It's called one is react and another is respond. In most of the cases we react, but ideally we should respond. So I'll just share with you on this regard a bit in more details in the next slide. Next is, which I said earlier, is that always be a very very active listener, and also watch non-verbal details. Even if you see in my session, if I could have do a face-to-face session with you all, I could have observed your non-verbal details also, and I can customize my presentation in that way also. So these are certain limitations of these virtual sessions. So anyway, be a very very active listener and always pay attention to all these minute details. This is a very very important thing. Be very aware of your own emotion and see how they are going to affect others. These days, I'm sorry to say, these days people are having very strong point of views on their sociological ideology, on their political ideology, on their economical ideology, and people state them upfront. So in corporate, this is not a very advisable behavior. So I would request all of you to be very balanced, to listen to others' point of views and respect other point of views, and be very aware. Don't show emotional outburst everywhere in that way. Always take criticism and never take confrontation with the person who is criticizing you. Try to understand the root cause of the criticization, why the person is criticizing you. He may be criticizing you for your betterment. He may be criticizing you for some actions which you could have avoided. So take criticism in a nice way and start and take it in a very, very productive way. Now again, I'll say, the people who can empathize others, who can be very humanly, are the people who are going to thrive well in workplace. And last but not the least, in many of the cases, we'll find that people who had gone at the top in the leadership hierarchy, in many of the cases, people have become very unapproachable. People, you cannot access those people. They had started showing their level. So be rest assured that that is the last stage for those people. They don't go beyond that. The people who are very approachable, who remains humble, with feet on their ground, will go up in the ladder. So always be very approachable. So always smile at people. Be at yourself. Don't wear a mask. So that is very important in your workplace. Have your own signature style. The way of the kind of behavior, the kind of person you are, you behave in that way only. So those were the tips. And now I just stated you, there are two difference. One is called a respond, another is called a react. So whenever if I am going to ask you some sort of challenging questions, I'm sure many of you will start reacting. You'll start reacting. And in many of the cases, people listen to answer. They don't listen to respond. Say, for example, if I'm going to ask you a question, you start preparing your answer within your mind without listening to my question properly. So, but ideally, a person who respond are the person who take time, listen what the other person is saying, try to understand the need, why the person is asking that, and also try to understand the need behind the need for the questions, and then respond. There is a very important skill which is required in our corporate, which is called how you are going to handle objections. There are various kind of objections we'll face. If you are moving into sales, you may feel various kind of objections from the from the clients. You may face objections from your bosses. You may feel objections from your team members. There are various kind of objections. So if I just want to classify objections, you'll find there are three kinds of objections. One very basic kind of objection is indifference, where people are quite happy with the way they are doing things and they don't want to change. That is called indifference. Say, for example, in sales, a typical indifference problem is you are going to sell a brand which other company is also having, and the consumer is using that brand and is quite happy and he don't want to change. Then he'll face some sort of indifference. He don't want to change, to shift to your brands. That is called indifference. Another kind of objections which you will find is called skepticism. There are a lot of skepticism within people's minds. Say, for example, you are selling a brand to a person and the person is not very sure whether your brand will work or not. He is unsure about the quality of your brand, about the message which you are giving through your brands. That is called skepticism. And another problem, which is perhaps one of the toughest to handle, is called drawback. You are selling a brand, but the customer is seeking for some features or benefits which is not within in your brands, but you have to sell this to your customer. So that is called drawback. So basically, there are three set of objections which we normally very frequently faces in field, in office, everywhere. It's indifference, skepticism, and drawback. Now, if you need to handle them, you cannot react. Okay. So you cannot react. You need to respond. How you are going to respond? The first step for responding is always acknowledge the other person's need, or the client or the customer's need, or your boss's need. He is raising that concern, raising that objection for a reason. Acknowledge that. Acknowledging it will help to open the customer in a better way, and we'll get newer avenues to get in handling of those needs. Anyway, so this is altogether a different subject, how you can handle indifference, how you can handle objections. So that is my message from this slide, is that never react, always respond. So before closing this the session, I just want to say all of you, emotional intelligence is a very, very important skill set. Not only will make you a happier person, but also will help you to succeed professionally. So with this, I'm coming to the end of my presentation. And lastly, I just want to say all of you a big thanks, wishing you all a fascinating career, and always be yourself. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chakraborty. I think it was a
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights. It will definitely a pathfinder for our students and participants for their future endeavors. So now I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Devobroto Samaddas, sir. And after the session, there will be question answer session for this today's webinar. So participants are requested, if you are having any question, then after the session, you can put it in the chat box. We will discuss on that. So Devobroto sir, please.
Thank you, Professor Chakraborty. I think it was a wonderful presentation from Mr. Chakraborty. And Professor, how much time I have to speak?
Sir, it is as per your convenience. We have the slots till up to 12:30. So there will be 5 minutes for 5 or 7 minutes for question answer session after your session.
Great.
So accordingly,
so I think I won't take much time, maybe 20, 30 minutes.
Yes.
And
yes.
my previous speaker, Mr. Chakraborty, has eloquently talked about the whole gamut of emotional intelligence, EQ, and particularly from the corporate point of view. So what I will do is, from my experience, I do not show slides generally in such meetings because it is easier to communicate, I think, if we go and talk from experience. So my presumption here is that all the participants necessarily students, or some faculty members also are there? Professor Chakraborty? Okay, I think Professor Chakraborty possibly has muted. So what I presume is that there is a mix of both the students as well as faculty members, because this emotional intelligence is also important for the faculty members to note and practice. I, being a professor of practice in few of the management schools, I find that this is equally applicable both for the students as well as for the professors. I'll give you one example to start with, and then I think we can relate it more clearly. In one of the classes, and this is from a real life example, in one of the classes, possibly a business school class, there is an attendance criteria, and students are required to come and mark their attendance. And if somebody secures below par attendance, let's say less than 75%, then he or she is not allowed to sit for the board exam. So one day, we find that one particular student is coming late by almost 30 minutes. And the first class starts at around 10 o'clock and it extends up to 11 o'clock. So the professor actually, on the very first day, has noted this, and by showing empathy or sympathy, has let the student come in even at 10 or 10:30. And there was the class which was going on in full swing. But it happened in successive days, maybe every alternate day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and again next Monday. So it went on, and after a few days, when this was becoming regular, The professor lost his school, and he or she, whoever was the professor, rebuked or shouted at that particular student. And the student felt sorry and asked for a permission to enter. And the professor declined and disallowed the student to enter. Now, I stop here. Apparently, it looks that the student is extremely indisciplined, and regularly on those particular days, she or he is coming late. But there is a case here that beyond certain things which meets your eyes, there are certain things which do not meet your eyes. So, as we just learned that instead of reacting, you please try to understand. So, the basis of emotional intelligence is don't judge, but just understand. But most of us, most of the time, in most of our life, in most of the cases, we do exactly opposite. We judge and we don't understand. And when we judge, we are predisposed to form an opinion and from a comment. What happened exactly in this student's case? I think it might have happened to many of us in real life. The student actually had a brother who was in mental home, and the mental home started around 9:30, and this particular student had to go there on those specific visiting days on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. He had to go and meet his mentally unstable brother who had been put into the mental home and feed him with the food which his mother has given. Otherwise, that particular, uh, the student's mother will also feel bad. So there were three stakeholders. Who were the stakeholders in the student's predicament? One was student's mother. The second one was student's mentally unstable brother. And the third one was the professor who was teaching. So he couldn't balance possibly. So at the end of the day, he had to rush to the class, and he was late. While this professor actually rebuked and sent the student out of the class, the professor didn't understand what is the reason. Professor never wanted to understand it. He or she felt that it is not important to understand the reason. In most of our real life, we fall into this trap of not understanding the reason, and we judge. Aristotle once said very nicely, and many years back, many centuries back, and I give this particular thing to all of you, and you can understand that whether it is correct or not, what he said many centuries back. He said, it is very easy to be angry with somebody. We all become angry with many of us, our parents, our friends, our brothers, our sisters, even a roadside stranger also, even an auto rickshaw driver. We all become very angry and we show our outburst in different form. What Aristotle said, it is very easy to be angry with somebody, but it is very difficult to understand the right time, the right place, the right person, the right dose, the right purpose, and the right way to be angry. So, when we have six rights here, you will find that it is extremely difficult to have that rightness in your behavior. Then, possibly, all of us will behave in the most, rational way. So, emotional intelligence is, as we have seen in our previous presentations, is not only about yourself, but it's all about others also. So it is what Gita said. We talk about emotional intelligence as a discovery only in the last century. It is not even 50 years old. So, do we mean to say that emotional intelligence didn't exist in the mankind before that? That's very strange. Emotional intelligence was made popular by none other than Daniel Goleman, who actually wrote this famous book in 1995, and he became extremely popular. It became New York Times bestseller for consecutively 3 years, and still it is sold. But the point is, emotional intelligence was there in before that also. Many years back, maybe before 1995, 1960s, even Abraham Maslow also talked about emotional intelligence. In our Gita, when Arjuna and Parthasarathi, that means Arjuna and Krishna, when they were in the battlefield, Krishna also talked about emotional intelligence to Arjuna. He said that it is not about you have to see others in you. So you have to see both ways, you in others and others in you. So if we talk about emotional intelligence as 5 things: you identify, you understand, you use, you manage, and you handle emotions of yours as well as others whom you're interacting with. So I repeat, this is perceive or identify, you understand, you use, you manage, and you handle the emotions of yourself and others. We very frequently hear about our great Indian captain MS Dhoni, who is called none other than Captain Cool. And what is actually behind this Captain Cool is he hides his emotions, even in triumph or even in defeat. So that's very important how to do that. We talked about emotional intelligence in workplace. We actually or roughly spend around 40% of our time in the working life in workplace. Sometimes it can be debated, it can be 30% or it can be 50% also, as some of the uh, big people have also talked about 80 to 90 hours of work. But the point is, you spend a lot of time with yourself, with your circle of friends, with your family. Do we practice emotional intelligence there? That's very important. If you are practicing emotional intelligence in workplace, then you need to also carry the same tradition back home with your family and with your friends. That doesn't happen all the time. So, IQ is a very glamorous topic. People talk about somebody has the highest IQ. That young lady Vaishali from Indian southern state has one of the highest IQ, which is crossed 200. If anybody crosses 160, it is supposed to be a very high IQ. Uh, Isaac Einstein uh, had certain IQ which is more than 160, but there are many people in these days, even the Gen Z, those who are born after 96, they actually have an IQ of 226 to 270. So we talk about, if you Google, you'll find the top 10 IQ people in the world. So it comes with A, B, C, D, etc. So IQ is a glamorous subject. You don't have to cultivate too much to have an high IQ. People are born with IQ. Generally, that's the axiom which people talk about. So if you are having an IQ test today, any of you, and if you do an IQ test after 10 years or 20 years, it is generally seen that the IQ never changes much. Maybe a plus minus variation of 2 to 3%, that's all. But EQ is a less talked about subject. It's not because that it has come recently in the Indian context of business management or as a particular curricula, but EQ is a much less talked about for various reasons. We have no curricula of EQ in our classes, in our schools, and in our colleges, and even in our business schools. Although we talk about EQ very eloquently for corporate sector, but what we talk is not that what we walk. So it is extremely important that EQ is something which needs to be understood by all of us. Now, when we talk about EQ, it is all about understanding yourself and understanding others. Think about if everybody had EQ in the right way. First of all, EQ, even if it is measured, it is not published. So we never know if Mother Teresa had a higher EQ than Adolf Hitler, or our Nobel Peace Prize winner Kailash Satyarthi had a higher EQ than President Donald Trump. We don't know because nobody goes through that particular test. And there are various tests which are available, uh, practiced by several people. But EQ is something, as I said, which is less glamorous than IQ. As a result of which, we ignore or we tend to uh, sort of brush away this entire thing. So if EQ was there for everybody, if people were so understanding about others' feelings, do you think Mahabharata would have been written? In the court of Kauravas, when Pandava was invited for the dice game by none other than the maternal uncle of Duryodhan, Shakuni, did he have EQ or did he have emotional intelligence to invite, or did the elders who were present at that time have the right amount of emotional intelligence to understand what is going through? And when there was a disrobing of none other than Draupadi happening in front of everybody present, where was the emotional intelligence of all the people? So, emotional intelligence is talked about, it's preached, but it's not practiced even today. It was not practiced 2000 years back. It is still being not practiced now, but it is preached. Had there been emotional intelligence present, there wouldn't have been World War One and World War Two. There wouldn't have been many of the atrocities which is being carried out by several people on several others. If everybody was so understanding about the plight of others, what will happen if I behave like this with somebody? What will happen to somebody? A bit of empathy, a bit of self regulation also, that can I do something like this? The Pahalgam massacre, one of the greatest example and the recent example. When that particular person sprayed bullet on the husband of that family, did he have the right emotional intelligence, or he disregarded the emotional intelligence because he never understood or tried to understand that what will happen to the family when I am killing the husband of that family? What will happen to the young kid and the widow? And it is not one, two, three, four, it's up to 26 of them. So, world actually, as we see now, it's very, very in an unstable situation where we see that one thing which is lacking very much, and which we all of us will agree, that emotional intelligence is something which is lacking in the world. maximum. So, in the formative years of school, why can't we have an emotional intelligence class? That's not there. In some of the schools, I studied in a Catholic school where we had a special subject called moral science. I'm sure that moral science is still taught in some of the schools, but not all. But there is no syllabus or a book or certain document which can be a guiding document for the teachers also to at least drive home the importance of EQ, emotional intelligence, among the students. Because it is not there, a student actually, when he grows up, he becomes a high school student or a college student and then goes to the workplace. He doesn't understand, he doesn't perceive the subtleties of emotions which crosses through one's mind, his own mind, his crosses through the other person's mind. In a family, we don't know that what crosses through our parents' mind when we talk in certain way or when we come home late, they are waiting, they have not taken dinner, they are waiting for you to come so that you can have dinner first and then they will take dinner. But then when we come late, then we simply come, we wash our face, have dinner, and go to our room and shut the room. So what we do not understand or disregard is the same old thing, that what are the emotions going through the other person's mind. So it is very important, you as students and some of you as professors, this is not a classroom pedagogy session, but it is very important to understand the the meaning of emotional intelligence to the depth of its meaning. So, and it is very difficult, as we have seen, that it is difficult to practice. People are not born with emotional intelligence per se, it has to be cultivated. Like people are not born with certain physique. So, if you want to develop a good physique, then you definitely have to spend a lot of time to develop. People are born with certain amount of musical talent. They are called prodigious talents. But if you really want to be a superb musician or a singer, then you need to cultivate that through rigorous hard work. So emotional intelligence also something which it is extremely important to be conscious all the time. Many a time, what we do not know is that we lose the consciousness. Although we are staying awake, fully alert about our surroundings, but what we fail to fathom is that we are not conscious of the emotions. Emotions are something which need to be felt. There's a famous song of Beatle. I don't know how many of you are Beatle fans. There's a famous song which both, I think, John Lennon and Paul McCartney sang, is all about very open confession about emotion and intelligence. And the word actually goes like this: Hey, I am feeling down. Is there anybody around? Hey, I am feeling down. Help me. Is there anybody around? This is also a pure case of emotional intelligence. Many of us do not seek help when actually it is required because we forget to identify our emotions. As a result of we suffer more. Many of the time, the person who is on the other side seeking help but not talking clearly, he or she is not understood by the other person whom he is talking to. So if there are many occasions, what happens is, particularly in corporate life, suppose the end hour for a office is 6 o'clock, and there is an important job for the boss, and the boss calls his or her subordinate at quarter to 6 and says that please do this. Now, what is the general perception when this is done? The number one is that the subordinate will be very, very disappointed because he or she was trying to plan packing up and catch a bus back home or drive back home at 6 o'clock or 6:05. But then suddenly at 5:45, the boss has given the work. So he was extremely, or he or she, whoever is the subordinate, is extremely unhappy and was trying to curse the boss, but never understood what the boss was trying to give. Similarly, the boss also never understood that this particular subordinate or his team member has to go because he or she is a single parent. He knows about it. He or she is a single parent and he or she has to go back home and take care of the child. But apparently, both of them are wrong. Somebody has not understood the real reason for this. Both of them tried to be as good a person to each other, having certain degree of emotional intelligence. But what they failed is they didn't bring the real facts on the table. Boss never behaved like this, but even boss's boss or the director of the company had asked for specific information which he wants for the board meeting, which is in the next day. And if you do not give it by the cycle of time, because the headquarters is in US, then you miss the bus. So it is very important to provide that particular information right on time so that the next day the board meeting happens in Seattle in US, and this information is very urgently required from this part of India. I am sure if it is properly communicated, then the boss's subordinate will also understand and boss also will understand it. So both of them will understand that both of them are not trying to exploit each other, but they are trying to do it with a purpose. So the sense of purpose is extremely important. Unfortunately, this is not felt all the time. So as I said, and as I repeat once again before I end, there is no easy way out. It is a constant discovery of yourself and constant discovery of your stakeholders around. Generally, the those who write stories or novels, they possibly understand this psychology well. But generally, even if you are a very good writer who has understood the emotions of the different characters or a great playwright, in personal life, he or she may not display the same amount of emotional intelligence as he or she displays in her writings. So it is so complex. But it is important, as I said, that please keep on discovering yourself, please keep on exploring yourself, and life would be much better. We hope emotional intelligence will be understood in the real way, not only in India or in Bengal or in any other state like Karnataka or Maharashtra, where you are from and join. It will prevail, the sense will prevail all across the globe, and the world would be a better place. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights. So participants are requested if you are having any question, you can put it on the chat box. Then we will discuss on it. There will be 5 to 7 minutes for your question answer session for both the speakers. Or you can directly ask our speakers. If you want to speak directly, then let me know. I will unmute you, and then you can ask the question to the speaker as well. Okay, sir, we have one question. Sumit Kumar from MBA final year students of Supreme Knowledge Foundation. As a corporate employee, let's assume a time when we are subjected to face an ethical dilemma at work. So being a corporate employee, how to deal with it? This is the question.
Shall I answer?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. Hi, Sumit, it's a nice question. Yeah, if you could have specified the ethical dilemma in a more detail, so it would be easier for me to understand. Anyway, so if you ask me, I would say there are, once you get into a job, you'll find certain challenging situation. Can you mute your line, please? Yeah. So you will find a lot of challenges. So out of those challenges, there can be certain challenges which are manageable, certain challenges which are not manageable. If you ask me about the manageable challenges, yeah, you will be bombarded with new information. You find a paradigm shift in the culture. You were in college, you moved to a corporate setup. So there will be a lot of changes you'll experience in the first few days, few months. You'll find smarter people around you. On a lighter note, so you will find you need to reskill yourself, you need to upskill yourself, you need to unlearn yourself. So there are a lot of changes which is going to happen in the first 60-70 days, and it will be difficult to manage, but these are manageable. At the same time, there are certain unmanageable things also. So of late we are coming with a term called toxic work environment. Yeah, you may find toxic work environment. It can be because of immense work pressure. It can be because of toxic bosses, because there is still a old saying, people don't leave organization, they leave their bosses. There can be bad bosses, good bosses around you. This will also be there. There can be unrealistic targets. All these things will be there. Work-life balance has gone for a toss. You have to work in your weekends also. You'll face these sort of situations also. Out of this also, there are certain things which can be managed. How you can manage? You can retrospect yourself why you are facing these challenges. Is it because of your time management? Then you need to work on your time management thing. If something can be managed through escalating the same in the right place through the HR or your skip line manager, this can also be managed. Still, if it is not managed, that's not the end of world for you. There are so many organizations. You can find out new avenues also. So hope I satisfy you, Sumit. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can add a little to what Mr. Chakraborty has said. Uh, Ethical dilemma is always a dilemma. And the more important thing is situation becomes more complex it is if it is a trilemma. So when you talk about two things, it is a dilemma. And when you have two things which are three things, the dilemma is basically such a thing where both the options are unfavorable to you. Please understand it. If somebody has one option which is favorable and another one is unfavorable, it is very easy to select. The problem becomes compounded when you have both unfavorable. There's a famous movie from Meryl Streep called Sophie's Choice. Please see this movie where Sophie, the mother, was asked by the Nazi soldiers to part away with one of his children or lose all the children or both the children. So this is called a dilemma where Sophie actually being a mother cannot part even with a single child. But at the same time, if he cannot part with the Nazi soldiers in the concentration camp, then she has to part with both the children. So this dilemma is hugely tormenting. Just like in a few other days, 2 days back or yesterday, I think there was a huge fire in Barabazar. And in the fire, when you are on the third or the fourth floor and fire is approaching you to engulf, you have a dilemma whether to be in the floor or to jump from the floor. And most of the time, the people actually die because of not burned by the fire, but because of jumping from the floor to avoid fire. So, coming to this dilemma part, in bigger organizations, there are chief ethics officers. So, if you have a dilemma that you have found out something unethical and you are trying to understand whether you have to raise this point or not, this is called whistleblowing. You can always report to the chief ethics officer for certain amount of your advice or counsel. In many of the companies, in Tata's, of course, we have seen that there is a policy called whistleblowing policy also. There are beautiful films also on whistleblowing, and various companies have been under scrutiny because of whistleblowing in the recent past in Indian context also. So whistleblowing is a very tough thing where you come across certain thing wrong in the company, and then you raise that particular thing and bring it to the notice of certain management. But then your interest has also to be preserved. That's why the whistleblower security is also very important to be noted. So it is important that ethical dilemma is a tough thing to always confront with, but take the help of others whom you understand well, your mentors, your chief ethics officer. You may not be able to take a decision alone. So it is always better to consult with few others if you don't have chief ethics officer or mentor in the company. So that's something which can help you to withstand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Uh, is anyone else who wants to ask something to our speakers? If any questions are there, you can directly ask or you can write in the chat box so that we can discuss over. Sir, one more question is there from Sunny Rath. Sir, can it be critically measured while working under tough situation?
Just let me revisit the question once again. Can it be
Yes.
critically measured while working under tough situation? What exactly? What do you want to measure? Means the emotional quotient part or what? Yeah, but if I understand the way, whatever I understand the question, I will try to answer it. So yeah, tough situation obviously determines the tough people. Say for example, during tough situation, people who handle tough situations are rated differently than people who are working in softer situations. That is there in the organization. See for example, every big organization rated those people highly or give promotions or higher roles to those people who handled various tough situations. Say for example, in our organization I can say people were before promoting a people, you need to handle various tough territories. You need to handle tough locations. You need where we are having the toughest of the distributors, who are having the toughest of the markets, toughest of the competition, the most complicated ecosystem. The people who handle those sort of markets are given an extra edge over others who handled not so tough area. So yeah, that is there. Obviously people who handled tougher situations are getting better appraised in any organization. That is there. Yeah.
Hello. Uh, uh, Thank you, sir. So one more question from Ashutosh Pandey. Sir, what role do emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills play in our leadership or speaking engagements?
Yeah, it's played a pivotal role. Emotional intelligence plays a pivotal role because that was what my presentation was mostly around. So basically, the most important part in emotional intelligence to leadership is understanding your own emotions and understanding your team's emotion. So that's how the great leaders operate. So for example, I'm just citing an example. Say for example, I am handling several states or several small business units lies in different parts of the part of east. So I have to, when it's like driving a car, so I have to change my gear while I'm addressing a team of northeast and while I'm addressing a team in Kolkata. So I have to change my gear accordingly. So that is what emotional intelligence all about. I know what is apt for that team and what is apt for this team. A Bihar team will get motivated, a Bihar team will start functioning in a different manner than a team which is operating in some other part of the country. So that's the role of a leader. Then that's where emotional intelligence comes into play. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions? Okay, I think there are no more questions. So thank you so much to our eminent speakers, Mr. Shibaji Chakraborty and Mr. Devobruto Somaddar, for that incredibly informative and thought-provoking session. We are really grateful for the time and effort you took to share your knowledge with us today. I'd also like to extend heartfelt thanks to all our participants for joining us and staying engaged throughout the webinar. Your presence made this session truly meaningful. Special thanks to our organizing team, faculty members of Department of Business Administration Studies, Supreme Knowledge Foundation Group of Institutions, and the volunteers who worked behind the scenes to make this webinar successful. So before we close, don't forget to fill out the feedback form, which has been already shared in the chat, and certificates will be emailed to those who complete the form. With that, we officially conclude today's webinar. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you in our future events. So stay safe and have a great day ahead. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.